Hello. This is a reading from Sunday, December 11th, 2016. I started sifting through my last couple of journals because I wanted to find some of the work that I had done previously with the parts. I got a little bit distracted though, reading through the entries about Alan. That stuff is difficult to look back on, but almost surreal now. It seems like I'm reading about an entirely different person, not me. But I guess that is true now. That was 2 years ago that the really bad stuff started happening in that relationship, and a year and a half ago that it was finally over. I've had a year and a half of aftermath and time to work through it, and I honestly do feel like a completely different person. This period since that relationship ended has been hard, has been as hard, if not harder, than what I went through during the relationship. Because when it was happening, I was focused on Alan and how he was mistreating me. But since then, I've been forced to focus my intention internally, and that has been extremely difficult. I'm having to face demons of my own making and come to terms with all the ways that I have been causing my own suffering. I've finally had to start taking responsibility for my own life, my own happiness, and come to grips with all the ways that I wasn't taking responsibility before. All the ways I was handing over my power, my autonomy, my life. It's incredibly hard work, ego work. As ridiculous as this sounds, it's really hard to finally start being honest with yourself when you haven't been, and especially when you haven't been but you thought you were. But as hard as it is, there's no way that I could turn back now. The light's been switched on, reality illuminated. I can't unsee, unknow. And now that I'm aware of my capabilities of self deception, there's no way that I could go back to that, I don't think. I don't think it would work anymore, no matter how hard I tried. I don't think I could succeed at fooling myself. I know my own tricks now, and I love that. I love where I am and where I'm going and how I'm getting there. It feels real. I kind of feel alive. I can't remember ever having that actual sensation before. Maybe I never have. Anyway, I don't want to get too wrapped up in the progress, puff up my ego. I'm still an infant in the grand scheme of things, but that's okay because I've got forever to get this figured out. That's so liberating. No pressure, no timeline, no due date. I will do my due diligence while I'm here. I'll do my best and trust the universe to present me what is needed for optimal growth. And I know that it's not all going to happen in this lifetime. So that's a relief. No pressure to finish something while I'm here. No fear of death because I'll just come back to work some more. With all the lack of pressure, I gain the freedom to just live in the present moment, which is what is absolutely needed to do the work that I need to do. It's perfect. Moving on. I got distracted. So here is something that I've been thinking about since I've been learning about spiritual materialism and the pitfalls of the ego. I've definitely seen in myself this tendency to collect. The collecting of spiritual information makes my ego feel like I'm accomplishing something, that I'm becoming all grand and spiritual and special. But I realize that that is not true spiritually. It's fake. It's just another layer to the ego strategies. But I don't yet have the information. So my dilemma has been how to get the information and learn while avoiding this collecting trap. I have created a spiritual studies outline. The acquisition of information through reading, studying, etc. Then contemplation of information to determine its merit. And then implementation of information through experiential practice, making it a part of daily life. I think that following this outline will help me avoid just adding to my spiritual collection. But in addition to acquiring and integrating new information, I really need to keep up with some daily practices to help me delve deeper into the experiential aspect. So these are daily practices that I want to make a habit. So that little outline there, this is just a side note, that little outline there was kind of my way of making sense, because I was getting down on myself for this. This is another one of those things where I read something and then, and then I hadn't quite fully worked it up in my mind yet and hadn't quite fully understood the message. And so with that misunderstanding, that led to judging myself. I was judging myself for this collecting of information, judging myself for this spiritual materialism, for allowing my ego to latch on to my spiritual studies. And so this little outline kind of helped me make sense that the acquisition of information is important, but it's just the first step, that you encounter new information and then you have to work it up in your mind to make sense of it and to determine whether or not it is true for you, whether or not it makes sense for you. And then, and only then, after you've made that decision as to whether or not to adopt that new information into your own worldview, then you can implement it through your own practice. So that was the side note. And here I've kind of outlined what I want to do for my spiritual practice. I'm trying to get organized, I guess. So for daily experiential spiritual practice, awareness of the ego's influence, mindfulness, which is awareness of present moment in time and space, being here now. Meditation, finding the gap between thoughts and emotions and concepts. Service to others, self-compassion, and prayer. And then for an ongoing heavier practice, I list self-inquiry, and under that is parts work, the core wounds, which lead to the frozen essential personality quality, which leads to exiles, which leads to the coping managers and protective managers, and all together, those equal the ego. So what I'm saying is that I just want to continue doing self-inquiry work and parts work, discovering my core wounds, and then spiritual studies. So continuing to learn more, but then also integrating it and implementing it in my life, and looking into my life purpose, where I will be of most service to others. I'm reading through my old journals, trying to dig up parts information. But I came across something relevant that I want to make note of here. This came from the Joy of Living book by Yonggi Mingyur Rinpoche. It's not about changing our thoughts this is a quote, I think. It's not about changing our thoughts or behavior in order to become a better person, but rather realizing that we are already good, whole, and complete. From what I'm learning about the ego, according to esoteric beliefs, we repress our soul's essential personal qualities, and our false self creates these coping and protective structures to fill the holes left behind. Our job in self inquiry is to rediscover these soul qualities and unbury them from beneath the false self's created structures and reintegrate them back into our personality, our true personality. So the Buddhists have this right, that it isn't about improving oneself, but realizing that we are already pure, perfect, and whole. And then I have a quote by Albert Einstein. This is a long quote. A human being is a part of the whole called by us the universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts, and feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from the prison by widening the circle of understanding and compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Monday, December 12th, 2016. These are some notes from this esoteric book that I had been reading. It's kind of an outline. So, personal development, or growing up and becoming the self, this is the psychological / personal part of the twofold path of awakening. Okay, so this note is the twofold path of awakening. I'll kind of explain this instead of just reading it. So this esoteric book has a twofold path to awakening. The two parts being personal development / growing up / becoming self. And then the second part is the transpersonal development / waking up / becoming / being self. So for personal development, this is the psychological / personal part of the twofold path to awakening. This includes personal self-inquiry, getting to know the false self, ego structures, and ingrained patterns of behavior. Body awareness, which is feeling the blockages, structures, and holes in our psyche with the presence of the soul. Healing and reintegration, which is healing our relationships with our exiled parts and reintegrating them. Conscious living, the ongoing present moment awareness to identify the pre-programmed reactive patterns that keep us on autopilot. And embodying essential qualities, which is actively encouraging more of our essential qualities to unfold in our personality. So that's all the personal development or growing up or becoming self. Now, this is the transpersonal development or waking up or being self. This is the spiritual / transpersonal part of the twofold path to awakening. Meditation, being fully present in our bodies, right here, right now. Living presence, bringing the presence that is discovered during meditation into the rest of our lives. Prayer, If conventional prayer is asking for something from God, authentic prayer is giving something to God, giving our presence and awareness to God, life, universe, to help create what is. And spiritual self-inquiry, getting to know the true self. Okay, I'm going to stop here. That was just a bunch of esoteric notes for you.